Hello, vinyl community. I haven't been posting much online. I know I haven't been as actively buying vinyl in the last couple months as I have before, but I want to make this video to share my favorite albums of 2012. I noticed that Chris from France, Chris4127 Basket, I think his username is, posted a video, and that reminded me that I wanted to do the same. And so I got all these albums. I actually have all of the ones on vinyl that I want to show you, so that's good. And I've listened to actually over 300 albums from last year, mostly just streaming online on Spotify or wherever. So I don't have all of them on vinyl, of course, but these ones that I want to show I think are the cream of the crop. And I think there's maybe a little under 20 albums here, so I'll try to get through these all. First one here, and I am going to try to go in order. I have listened to all these albums a few times and tried to put them in some kind of order. So from least favorite to favorite, although all of these again are, I think, the cream of the crop of 2012. So the first one here is one from Ricardo Villalobos. And this is a 3 EP set called Dependent and Happy. And Ricardo Villalobos, I've heard some of his music before, but another VC member, Stevie JU, I know really likes Ricardo Villalobos' music, and that kind of inspired me to check this out, and I was really pleasantly surprised. I have to say, this is really some extremely minimal house techno music. It almost sounds like he made kind of a normal house techno album and then just dropped the main beat from it. So there's a lot of space in here in the music, and I think that it's very free sounding, and the way that the tracks progress, the elements of the music come in and out through the song. It's really captivating if you're in the right mindset or the right atmosphere. So I definitely recommend this one. It's a really great album. Again, Ricardo Villalobos, Dependent and Happy. The next one here is, I think this might be my only hip-hop album on the list. Death Grips, The Money Store. It's just a extreme, rough, dark album that has a ton of energy to it, and it's a really interesting and good listen. So that's Death Grips, Money Store. And this one is The OC's Putrefires 2 EP. I think it's over half an hour long, so I would call it an album. But this one is just a great psychedelic garage rock album from The OC's again. And from what I've heard from this band, this actually could be my favorite album from this band. It really pleasantly surprised me. So again, that's The OC's, kind of a throwback psychedelic 60s rock album. The next one here is Earth Household. The album is called When Love Lived. This guy is also known as Brock Van Way, or BV Dub. He makes a lot of ambient music, but this is his first album under this name, Earth Household, and it's kind of a classic 90s house sounding album. Very soulful. It only has 4 tracks here, but each of the tracks are almost 10 minutes long. I think they'll range from 7-8 minutes each. So that is just it's a really good house album from Earth Household. This one is Mark Van Hoen, The Revenant Diary it's called. This one came out really early this year, maybe February, or last year, I mean to say, on the Editions Migo label, which is a great kind of experimental electronic label. And this fits right in. It's really kind of an atmospheric, strange, eerie sounding album. It does have some beats. It's not really totally an ambient album, but it's a great combination of really interesting sounds. And it does have some vocals even. It's a really interesting album from Mark Van Hollen. And this one is Orbital, their newest album called Wonky. And it's one of my favorite techno albums of the year, even though it's not really as straightforward techno as I'm used to hearing. There are some kind of poppier songs on here, and one song that's even almost a dubstep song, which I don't like too much, but several of the songs here are really, really great tracks. So that's Orbital's Wonky. This one is Deadbeats. The album is called 8, and it looks mostly just gray, but there is a little design there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a little dark kind of A shape there. And Deadbeats is a long-standing creator of what's called dub techno, just very deep sounding, heavy, slow style of techno. And it's one of my favorite styles of techno, and this guy is definitely one of the top producers of that style of techno. This is the Tindersticks with the Something Rain, and this one is kind of a loungy jazz rock album, but it has the singer's voice is a really powerful voice, and it's got a lot of power to it, even though it's kind of a laid-back album, which is a really interesting combination, I think, and it works really, really well. This may not be their best album, but it's definitely up there, I think. It's a great return to form for them. So that's the Tindersticks. And this one is probably one of the lesser known albums here. It's The 100 Waters, a self-titled album, The 100 Waters. And they're kind of a folkish band with some electronics added to it. Very, very similar in style to Animal Collective, and they're one of my favorites, so I really, really enjoyed this. I know Animal Collective did release an album of their own, but I actually think I prefer this one to the Animal Collective album. So that is The 100 Waters, kind of an electronic folk album. And I have the Grizzly Bear here next with Shields. This band has never failed to disappoint me. All of their albums I think are great, and this one is no exception. I think I do like it a little bit more than their previous album, Vecca Temest. Maybe not as much as Yellow House, but this is still a great album in my mind. So it fits right in on this list. Next is Mouse on Mars with Peristrophics. Just a crazy, wild IDM kind of album. All kinds of different sounds being mashed together and just played with, and it's a great listen. There's all kinds of stuff to wrap your mind around on this album. So that's Peristrophics from Mouse on Mars. And this one is Jericho, Breakup Songs it's called. I actually have two versions of this. This is the standard version. I think it's on white vinyl, and this is a special edition 7-inch book that was limited to 500 copies, but I like this album so much I wanted to get this definitely. And this is probably one of my favorite Deerhoof albums too. They do add some electronics on this album that were not so present on previous albums, but I think they do it really, really well, and it's very, very fun, enjoyable to listen to. And the next one is from Shackleton. This is a series of EPs. Let's see, the Drawbar Organ EPs they're called. The artwork on this is probably my favorite artwork from the year. Just all kinds of detail to that artwork. But the music too is some fantastic electronic strange music. I don't have a good description for this, but it's out there, electronic music. And there was also an album that, it was kind of a double album this was released with, called Music for the Silent Hour, I believe it's called. And that also was a really, really great listen for me. So that's Shackleton, the Drab Organ EPs. And this was an early favorite of mine of the year. This is Grimes with Visions. It's a great kind of a synth pop artist. Very electronic, very strange. Almost, there's something different about this music that's kind of grabbed me. And her voice is very, very high, but it works well with the music. It's almost soulful even, in an odd way. I know she was inspired by Mariah Carey to make this album, and her previous albums, I suppose. But that's a really great album from Grimes. Visions. And I have Deep Chord here. This is an EP from their album, or his album. This is Rod Modell is his name. The album is called Sommer, S-O-M-M-E-R, and this is the Summer Night Versions EP. The album itself wasn't available on vinyl, so I just had to get this one and be happy with this. But that's some really good techno, which is sourced with field recordings and just processed in a really, really interesting way. To go along with the Deep Chord's Summer, this one is Echo Space. Deep Chord presents Echo Space, you can see there. Deep Chord, Rod Modell is one half of this duo, along with Intrusion, or Stephen Hitchell. And this is called Silent Worlds. A three disc set here. And it's on marbled colored vinyl. But this one is much more of an ambient techno album. Mostly ambient on this one. But similar in the way that the Deep Chord is sourced from field recordings. This is also more directly sourced from field recordings, and it's just organized and processed in a really interesting way. And this is one of my favorite albums in a long time, favorite ambient albums in a long time. It's just incredible, I think. Almost in a psychedelic kind of way. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. And finally, this one was my favorite of the year. I wasn't really expecting it to be, but it's Scott Walker, Bish Bosh. This album just blew me away when I heard it. I've known Scott Walker for several years now. I really liked his 60s albums, Scott 1, 2, 3, and 4. And also Tilt and The Drift as well. Climate of Hunter. But this one is just an incredible album. I mean, he's got a kind of really interesting sense of humor on this album. Even the lyrics, which I don't usually pay too much attention to, are really, really interesting on this album. And I think he's progressed through the years, each album getting better and better after the 60s, let's say, because Scott 4 is still my favorite, but since then I think he's just built up to this, and it's a very, very interesting, one of the just strangest, most thought-provoking albums I've heard in a long time. And again, it blew me away. So that's Bish Bosh from Scott Walker. You have the track list there. One of these tracks is extremely, I think it's over 20 minutes, this one. SDSS, whatever that's called, a bunch of numbers following, but that track is incredible. So that one is number one on the list. And that's it. Thanks for watching.